So you've got the 3-0 Packers who have kind of struggled and stammered offensively, but very good defensively against a Philadelphia team that's had injuries at left tackle, injuries at wide receiver, defensive back issues. They're healthier now. Left tackle back, wide receiver Alshon Jeffrey back. I like Philadelphia. If I was betting it, not in my Blazing 5, but I'd take Philadelphia +4 tonight. But it's interesting. Green Bay is a team in transition. And, of course, New England last year was a team in transition. And about 2 years ago, New Orleans became a team in transition. But Green Bay is different than those two teams. New England became last year a power running team. Why? Tom Brady's 42. They now draft a running back every year. They're much more reliant on the running back. They have the deepest set of running backs in the league than Tom Brady. And Drew Brees, a couple of years ago, New Orleans stepped up. They started drafting running backs, paying their offensive linemen alike. But with Brees and with Brady, there is a reason. They're old. Aaron Rodgers is not. He's 35. He's a young 35. He's always kept himself in great shape. He eats well, smart guy. He's got, most believe he's still in his prime. I think he's slightly out of it, but I think he's got at least 3 to 4 tremendous years left. But Green Bay made a decision 2 years ago. We want to be less beholden to Aaron Rodgers. Because the downside to being beholden to Aaron Rodgers was he wasn't getting along with Mike McCarthy. He'd had teammates take shots at him. He could be condescending and difficult. And despite what Aaron and Green Bay people deny, the articles came out. They said this time when we hire Matt LaFleur, you don't be the problem. They, of course, denied. I still believe the article. So if you watch Green Bay tonight, much like New England a year ago and New Orleans 2 or 3 years ago, they were teams in transition. And it's very interesting because Rodgers is not old. Rodgers is really, at least the worst case scenario, just at the end, just at the beginning of his twilight. 4 good years left. But if you noticed, last year Green Bay was last in the NFL, rushing 32% of the time. This year they're rushing 44% of the time. Top 10 in the league. They ramped up their defense. Now, Green Bay was smart. They knew they were going to have to pay Aaron Rodgers, and they knew there wasn't a better college quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, and they knew they were going to have to pay him. But this time when they rebuild the football team, we're not going to be as Aaron dependent because we've done that for 10 years. And we got a coach that's fired, a quarterback coach that's leaving. We've had one good playoff run, and frankly, a lot of bad press, and we're tired of it. So teams are in transition all the time. Tennessee is going to be in transition in the offseason. They don't like their quarterback. The Saints in New England, great franchises, have been in transition with Brady and Brees the last 2 years because they're getting old. Green Bay's in transition because sometimes Aaron's leadership can be condescending. He ad-libs out of plays and often gets hurt. And when he does get hurt, we come crashing down because we're totally beholden to him. And what's interesting tonight, they face Philadelphia. And that's what Carson Wentz is close to. The 2 knocks on Aaron Rodgers, he ad-libs out of plays and gets hurt. And his leadership, not always ideal. The 2 knocks on Carson Wentz, he ad-libs out of plays and gets hurt. And his leadership, players like Nick Foles, way, way better. So you're watching a reality for Aaron and what could be another reality for Carson Wentz if he gets hurt again or they don't turn it around. All the time, organizations and companies transition into employees, out of cultures, into employees, out of employees. And I think you're watching a Packer team that knew they were going to have to pay Aaron and should have paid Aaron. And I'm all for paying Aaron. But that 10-year run with Aaron was fraught with coaches fired, feelings hurt, overly dependent, and they decided we're going to be a running team. We're going to play real defense. And by the way, you're watching it. 37 possessions for the Packers this year, only 7 touchdowns. 2 of them last week were a 5-yard drive and a 32-yard drive because Denver turned it over. They are transitioning out of depending on Aaron being great. Kansas City now is all in on Mahomes. They like him as a kid. They like his age. There's no injuries. They like his leadership. We're not even going to spend defense. We're going all offense. But you can, and so Kansas City is very comfortable. Keys to the kingdom. You get them. Deshaun Watson right now. It looks like to me, outside of the left tackle, they're very comfortable with everything with Deshaun. They're gonna keys to the Andrew Luck, keys to the kingdom. Seattle, Russell Wilson, pay you. But with Aaron, it's very interesting. Watch the Packers tonight. They are now. That doesn't mean Aaron won't be great. They are built now to be not as reliant on Aaron. And I think Carson Wentz, one more injury or a 500 season not in the playoffs, they'll have discussions about moving off being as beholden. Got to pay him. He's too good not to pay. He's a quarterback. We're not going to be beholden to him. All right, so I'm in a rare position this morning defending Baker Mayfield. Biggest game so far in the season for the Browns, although you could say Tennessee and the Rams-Jets were all important. This week, Rex Ryan used to coach in the NFL, defensive guy, very, very good defensive coach. Not a great head coach, but a very smart defensive guy who looks at a lot of film, took a shot at Baker Mayfield. He said, quote, he's overrated as hell. Here's a guy right now that's a one-read guy, Baker, and he's going to improvise. He's got to realize one of the slowest guys on the field when you take off with it. The ball's not coming out in rhythm. He's staring down guys. He's not accurate down the field. I think that's overly harsh. He has had accuracy issues. I do not blame those all on Baker. In fact, I think a big portion of those are interior offensive line. They have bad tackles. I don't trust Freddie Kitchens. Baker, of course, responded because Baker is, despite what you think, he's insecure. Insecure guys get very defensive. Baker gets very defensive to criticism, and he took a shot. Of course, he did at Rex Ryan. I want to give you a couple of numbers. 10 of the 16 interceptions last year for Big Ben were targeting AB. Dak Prescott got better when Dez left. Ocho Cinco left the Bengals. They won more games. 3 teams got better when T.O. left. High-maintenance wide receivers, and I think that's realistic calling OBJ high maintenance, are difficult. And they're especially difficult for young quarterbacks. This is why the Cowboys got Dez out of town. And did you notice when they went and got a receiver? It was the workaholic, the highly respected, the very mature Amari Cooper. That was not a coincidence. Young quarterbacks, it should be noted. Who did the Rams get Jared Goff? Small college Cooper Kupp. The very dependable, low-key Robert Woods. Brandon Cooks, heavy charity, very quiet. Have you noticed this? Needy wide receivers can be very difficult. They are especially difficult for young quarterbacks who are trying to learn the offense, who are trying to win the room, who are trying to balance the ego. So it's hard enough for Sam Darnold and Baker and Lamar and Kyler Murray to learn the offense, go into a new sport. I mean, college football, the pros, a new sport. Win the locker room. Get the support of your coaches. And here comes OBJ, which I said could be very problematic and won't last. So Jordan Palmer talked about an interception Baker threw against Tennessee. And OBJ didn't do what he was supposed to on the route.
It's supposed to be an 18-yard dig, call it. Right? It's supposed to be an 18-yard dig. And because the receiver's so used to killing the DB or beating the guy covering him, which in zone coverage, you don't need to do that. Get to the spot. He does an extra move, and the timing's off, and Baker throws it to a spot, and the receiver's not ready. The pick goes on Baker's stat column, but the reality is if you can't trust that guys are going to be in the same spot every single time, then you got to wait to see it. You're 6 foot, whatever he is, 6'1", 6'2". The offensive line, as you pointed out, is the weakness. Now you're going to do what you have to do to survive, and for him in college, that was moving to his right.
So it's very easy to bang on Baker, but there's a reason the Rams acquired the receivers they did for Goff, and the Cowboys got Dez out of town and went and got one of the more mature receivers in the league, Amari Cooper. It is hard enough to ask Baker, learn the offense, third coordinator, third coach. He's now having to massage and take care of OBJ. Because he knows OBJ is sensitive to criticism. He's taking shots at me. And the other thing Baker's being asked to do, in a weird way, David Njoku, the tight end getting hurt, actually strangely could help Baker's growth. That's one less mouth to feed. Because if you look at the stats so far with the passer rating, Jarvis Landry, when Baker throws to Jarvis, his passer rating is 31. So Baker's having to balance the needs of OBJ, learn the system, new head coach. I got to keep Jarvis Landry healthy. What about the catches? Rex Ryan's taking shots at me. It'd be very easy for me to take shots on Baker Mayfield and yell, I was right. But I think Rex Ryan's too harsh. I think OBJ was a very dicey proposition by the GM, John Dorsey. And this is a very combustible situation. Now, if Cleveland wins this weekend, it's all good. But you got Baker trying to make sure OBJ is happy, and now Jarvis Landry and Baker aren't working. You've got a coach who was hired by the GM who just got fired in Kansas City, John Dorsey, and if Freddie Kitchens doesn't work, then John Dorsey gets fired and he's not getting another GM job. Did anybody see Jimmy Haslam, the owner, in the box Sunday night? Did everybody see how intense he was? Dude, you're a billionaire. You always see Jerry smiling and Robert Kraft smiling and Haslam sitting there like hovering over all of it, becoming a national joke because he keeps firing people. So you've got all this chaos and all this pressure and all this needs, and you're putting it all on Baker Mayfield? You got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. That's why I would not have hired Freddie Kitchens. I would have hired, as Joy said yesterday, Mike McCarthy. That is why I would not have gone after OBJ, although I think statistically he'll be good this year. I would have gone out and got kind of an Amari Cooper type player. So we can all bang on Baker on this. I could take out the anvil today, but you cannot ask a kid in his 12th, 15th NFL game to juggle this many emotional footballs. It'd be asking me at 24 years old to be the face of a sports network with a bad boss. Joy would be just crazy old yell screaming at me diva. I got Goulet who rarely shows up to work. Well, that's reality. The whole thing would not work is what I'm saying here. You're putting way too much on Baker's plate. This would be hard for Breeze. Way too much on Baker's plate. And this may be the last time I'm very pro-Baker, but I did think Rex is too hard, and I think people are losing perspective on how hard quarterbacking in this league is. It's freaking hard. It is hard if you have Belichick. It's impossible with that mess right now in Cleveland. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.